The man was shoved straight into the trunk of a car. The briefcase in his hand fell and rolled across the ground. Seizing the opportunity, Ethan quickly snatched the briefcase, but little did he know there were others behind him waiting to steal it. In the blink of an eye, 3 cars lunged into a breathless chase right on the highway. What on earth was inside that briefcase that could make so many people risk their lives to fight for it? It all began a month ago in Triest. Agents were conducting a covert operation with the goal of capturing a rogue CIA agent in room 620 of the Castellito Hotel. The team members gathered in the elevator, shedding their disguises and drawing their weapons. Ethan led the backup team to the 6th floor, while the person in charge, Sarah, had already arranged the ground team, ready to extract them as soon as the members were picked up. Upon receiving the order, Ethan immediately led his men into the room, quickly neutralizing and tying up the target. The remaining members began searching the entire room, scouring every inch of the place. Very soon after, they found the stolen hard drive. Sarah immediately ordered a retreat. The team escorted the target out of the hotel, but suddenly, the backup vehicle exploded into the sky. The front entrance was blocked by flames, forcing the team to escape through the back door. Sarah directed them to retreat via the canal. At all costs, they could not lose that hard drive. However, disaster struck repeatedly as the team was ambushed by the enemy. The ground backup team was still 5 minutes away, but Ethan believed they could reach the canal bridge in just 3 minutes. Sarah wanted to stop him, but Ethan was determined. Along the way, his teammates were killed one by one. Only Ethan, leading the target, made it to the canal, but in the end, both he and the hostage were eliminated. A car carrying the hard drive sped away. In another development, the male lead Jack is a construction worker. His daily job involves working at great heights, much like the majority of people in the world. His life is ordinary but very fulfilling. However, his destiny is about to change. That night, Sarah specifically sought him out at his house. They were not only high school classmates, but also each other's first loves. Thus, when Jack saw her, he was utterly astonished. After some polite greetings and reminiscing about the past, Sarah suggested they go somewhere else to talk. Having said that, she drove him away at high speed, taking him to the place where he had once confessed his love to her. Just as they were immersed in a romantic atmosphere, Sarah actively confessed that she had brought him here with another motive. Right after that, a sedative needle was plunged into him, and someone appeared to pack him up and take him away. When Jack woke up again, he found himself in a hotel. It was unbelievable that he had flown straight from New Jersey to London. Jack didn't even care about Sarah's explanation and immediately rushed out of the hotel. But someone was waiting at the door. It was Robert, Sarah's superior. Jack got into the car in a daze, and because he wasn't used to the steering wheel's position, he nearly caused an accident by driving on the wrong side of the road. Sarah introduced him to the Union. This is an invisible army that keeps the world running. Members must be people who go unnoticed by everyone. They truly get to work, taking responsibility for building cities or keeping production lines running. 2 days ago in Triest, the Union's mission suffered a setback. Sarah showed a photo of David, a former CIA analyst. He is on the run with top-secret information. The mission that day was to capture him, but everything went south. Now, David has been shot in the face. The whereabouts of the information remain unknown, and the Union has fallen into a quagmire because of it. After bringing Jack to the base, Sarah showed him another photo. The woman is named Olivia, nicknamed the Auctioneer. She represents a mysterious buyer to sell the information on the black market in London. And the mysterious seller is the one who murdered the team members and stole the info. After saying these words, she took Jack to perform an entrance test. Because the stolen documents contain information on people who served Western Allied countries, if they fall into the wrong hands, the Union will no longer be able to protect the public. Therefore, they need an ordinary person with a clean background to complete this mission. Just then, a black man suddenly attacked Jack. With his flexible physique, Jack dodged the blows and was even able to counterattack. The entrance test was considered passed. Robert said that Sarah was the one who recommended Jack, and he had one day to consider whether he truly wanted to join the Union. After understanding everything, Jack couldn't comprehend Sarah's actions. If they needed a nobody, why not choose one of the agents around here? Sarah explained that she needed someone who could stand on a narrow beam at a height of 300 meters without flinching, a former star athlete, and most importantly, Jack was the most trustworthy person in her memory. Furthermore, Jack didn't need to dedicate his whole life to the Union. He only needed to complete this one mission. Having said that, she handed him a first-class plane ticket to Newark. If Jack wanted, tomorrow he could return to Wilson's bar. Now he had 2 paths to choose from. She turned and walked away. Jack called his mother, who unexpectedly seemed to have mind-reading abilities, immediately guessing her son had reunited with his first love. She wanted her son to seize the opportunity and stay with her, then decisively hung up. That night, Jack proactively found Sarah to announce he would join the Union, even jokingly telling Sarah to call him 007. Afterward, he began a special training process, learning all the skills a Union agent needs to master. Because time was tight, the 6-month training period was compressed into 2 weeks. But things cannot be forced. Jack only needed to do his best. Next was the test of courage and obedience. Sarah gave him a blindfold. Jack had to run right to the edge of a building. If there was no command, he was not allowed to stop. Slowing down would also count as a failure. As time passed, Jack's skills became increasingly proficient. Driving, shooting, and his reliability levels all reached perfection. The foreman even made him a set of new identification papers and required Jack to memorize the information thoroughly. Afterward, everyone gathered to discuss. They would participate in a private auction. Each buyer could use a special encryption device provided by the auctioneer to bid remotely. The prerequisite was to pay $5 million in cash up front and provide a verifiable bank account to receive the device, and Jack himself had to go pick it up. The location was at the Seven Dials Monument. It would be cash for the goods, get the device, and hand over the cash. The Union would monitor the entire process. On the day of the transaction, Sarah held a high ground position while the others ambushed nearby. Jack received a handgun and 45 rounds of ammunition, then set out with the cash. Suddenly, a strange man asked him if he had change, and then laughed, saying, "You're looking for the auctioneer, right?" He told him to turn off his headset and follow him. Jack complied. But at this moment, Sarah made an important discovery. A third party had intervened. There were clear enemies operating along the old street. Sarah leaped off the building. Meanwhile, Jack had entered a small pub and sat exactly where his nameplate was placed. At that moment, a phone rang from under the table. It turned out to be a mobile phone. Following the instructions on the phone, Jack went into the pub's restroom. A moment later, a large man appeared to make contact. After checking that the cash was correct, he left, and that special device was this very phone. Just as Jack was about to leave the pub, he saw a teammate take down one man, but immediately more assassins pursued them. The foreman ordered backup. Sarah told Jack to quickly take the device and leave. Consequently, he was still spotted by an assassin. In a panic, Jack ran onto a performance stage. The assassin pursued him relentlessly. Having no other choice, he had to crawl on the ground and sneak out the back door. Unexpectedly, another assassin was waiting there like a mouth open for fallen fruit. In the nick of time, a teammate drove a garbage truck and knocked him flying. Suddenly, Jack took a painful blow. It was a female assassin from the enemy faction. After a struggle, Jack gradually grew weak. He hurried to pick up the dropped phone, but after taking a few more punches, he let the phone fall into a sink. Then, he was strangled by the female assassin, preventing him from retrieving the phone in time. At the critical moment, Sarah appeared in time and smashed a wine bottle over her head. The group returned to the base, but the device was completely ruined by water. $5 million were down the drain. After checking the assassin's weapon, they found it was Russian-made. Robert speculated that Moscow was tracking all other parties involved in the auction. After all, eliminating competitors is much easier than winning a bid with a high price. The foreman felt there was a mole in the team. The previous mission in Italy was similar, but boss Robert disagreed. He trusted everyone in the room. The story returns to the auction. This time, a total of 5 factions were participating, and they would stop at nothing to get the info. Assuming all parties entered a phase of hunting each other, the situation would likely be very difficult. Sarah suggested, why not steal the device from other participants? Robert decided to give it a shot, since this involved the safety of the Western world and the survival of the Union organization. Currently, there were less than 48 hours until the auction. He told everyone to rest and gather here tomorrow. After the meeting, Sarah met Jack. Robert wanted him to return to New Jersey. Perhaps he wasn't suited for this profession. But Jack didn't want to give up halfway. He really wanted to prove that Sarah hadn't misjudged him. Therefore, he had no intention of going back and hoped the organization would give him one more chance. Early the next morning, the members held a meeting. This auction had 5 countries participating, and the easiest target was South Korea. However, the people guarding that special device didn't look Korean but like genuine Eastern Europeans. Furthermore, they were mercenaries from the former Soviet bloc. A signal detected them hiding in a vacant villa in Hampstead. Immediately after, the team members struck. They sneaked into the house. Sarah, with one blow, knocked a guy out. An unlucky man just stepped out of the elevator and was sent to meet God. After clearing out the mercenaries, they still found no trace of the device. At this moment, one last mercenary remained in the villa. Everyone split up to search. A shadow flitted behind Sarah. She hurried to chase him and called Jack for backup. He used a brick to knock the man straight into an empty swimming pool, thus successfully finding the device. However, they found they couldn't contact Emily. That girl had been murdered, with a postcard on her body that read, "Welcome to London." Sarah was about to tell her boss to retreat quickly when she witnessed the secret base being blown to smithereens. Luckily, the boss was okay. The bomb didn't completely destroy the control room, and the exact number of casualties was still unclear. Everyone immediately dispersed to hide and wait for instructions. Sarah and Jack went to a hotel to stay the night. The next day, they rendezvoused with boss Robert. Sarah asked about the casualties, but Robert kept it quiet. The foreman activated the device. Once the auction started, they could track Olivia's signal. But they had to ensure the bidding time was long enough, and that price would likely be extremely expensive. Just then, CIA personnel appeared. They would be the sponsors for tonight's auction. However, William also issued a stern warning. Only if the information is retrieved can the Union continue to exist. If they mess up again, they can expect destruction. The group prepared, and the auction officially began. Sarah and Jack rode a motorcycle, waiting for the signal to appear. The bidding price skyrocketed. Fortunately, the foreman tracked the approximate location of the signal. Upon receiving the news, Sarah immediately set off. To keep the location signal from being interrupted, they were forced to continuously raise the price, making the numbers climb at a dizzying rate. When the price reached $375 million, the opponents suddenly stopped bidding. Seeing the signal about to vanish, luckily at the last second, they raised the price to $350 million for the next turn. Sarah followed the trail near St. Paul's Cathedral. Finally, through the power of money, they learned the target was on the rooftop of a building and successfully found the person in charge of the auction, Olivia. Seeing the unfavorable situation, she had to reveal the location of the information file. It was in a lockbox at Holland Park. Sarah took out the device to check. It was indeed the information they had stolen. Just as the two were about to leave, there was a knock at the door. Opening the door, the person who appeared was none other than Ethan, the man thought to have died at the beginning of the movie. He pleaded to come in and talk, then explained to Sarah that he was swept out to sea by the current and miraculously survived. The operation in Italy failed because someone leaked information, so he played along and faked his death to investigate who the real mole was. That person was Robert, the boss of the Union. He had a powerful background and had performed black ops for the CIA. Evidence proving he was the mole was right in this pile of information. Therefore, they absolutely could not let Robert get his hands on it. Ethan suggested giving it to William of the CIA, who was currently overseeing the operation in London. Afterward, he uttered a series of sentimental words to beg Sarah to trust him and scheduled a meeting at dawn at Albert Bridge to hand over the information. After Ethan finished speaking, Sarah casually borrowed Olivia's car. However, in the car, the two broke into a fierce argument. Because at that moment, Jack was shocked to learn that Ethan was actually Sarah's husband. Furthermore, they hadn't divorced yet. The two picked at each other's flaws and had a massive row. Finally, Jack got out of the car in anger. He went to a bar and called a friend, promising that in a few days, he would definitely return for the friend's wedding on time. The next day, Sarah went to Albert Bridge, and as it turned out, Jack still followed her. However, there was no sign of Ethan. At that moment, she received a call from him. It turned out that Ethan was the real mole. He was working for Iran, and last night, he only acted to cover for Olivia to swap the briefcase. By now, he had already fled London by plane. But what was worse was that William had led men to surround them tightly, threatening them to hand over the intelligence file. Sarah signaled Jack to count to 3 and act together. While William was distracted, both immediately jumped into the river. The CIA thought they had boarded a boat, but they had actually escaped quietly via a ladder. Moreover, Sarah was not foolish. Last night when she hugged Ethan, she had secretly attached a tracking device to him. The signal showed he was in Ischia. However, currently, both were fugitives wanted by the CIA. The entire London police and agents were hunting them down. The most urgent task was to leave immediately. Jack contacted his best friend to arrange a cargo flight departing from Newark. He needed to leave the airport discreetly. Very soon, the backup staff appeared. The two successfully sneaked into a shipping container and took off with the plane at the same time. Robert was detained by the CIA on suspicion of betrayal. He told William through a surveillance screen that the real traitor was someone else, and very likely that person had sold out the stolen information. The consequences would be unimaginable. Countless intelligence officers would be murdered by terrorists, and at that time, William himself would have to bear the responsibility. Now, It was best to pray that the remaining teammates could find the file before anyone else. After the plane landed, Jack drove Sarah toward the target. They saw Ethan embracing Olivia on a yacht, heading somewhere unknown. Both speculated he was about to make the transaction. The truth was indeed so. Just as Ethan took out the intelligence briefcase, Sarah approached the table carrying a drink tray. She sat down opposite her ex-husband, accusing him of murdering agents and treason, while declaring his arrest on the spot. Immediately, she snapped her fingers as a signal. Receiving the signal, Jack immediately drove past and snatched the briefcase. The buying side also ordered their henchmen to pursue, leaving only Sarah to face Olivia's people. Olivia, being cunning, immediately displayed the spirit of sacrificing her teammates to save herself, leading her subordinates away without looking back. Ethan outwardly tried to act intimate to distract her, but then suddenly attacked and turned to run. Sarah chased him all the way to the pier. Both drew guns and faced off, but in the end, he still managed to escape. In another direction, Jack was about to be caught by them, but he hurried to find an opportunity to lose them. With a pull-up, he dodged a hail of bullets and climbed onto a rooftop. Here, he maximized his professional advantage, moving nimbly across towering steel beams and easily dealing with two pursuers. But unfortunately, someone else with a gun rushed up. Jack immediately performed a parkour jump to the other side. Unexpectedly, there were pursuers behind him as well. In a moment of vulnerability, he was strangled with a bag strap by one man. Amidst the crisis, Sarah fired a shot, cutting the strap. Jack quickly slid down, catching a gun and finishing off a few men. Only then did he retrieve the briefcase. However, Ethan returned. He hid around a corner and suddenly took Sarah hostage. After a moment of hesitation, Jack had to drop his gun. Just then, the buying side drove up. Sarah seized the chance to escape and told Jack to run. Ethan took advantage of his racial traits, speed/agility, and casually hijacked a sports car. Sarah, meanwhile, politely invited a driver out of his car to temporarily requisition it, promising to treat his car well. Jack reached the coast when the opponent suddenly drew submachine guns and sprayed fire. He jumped directly onto the roof of a car to dodge bullets, but unfortunately was thrown into the trunk. As Ethan secured the briefcase, Sarah immediately pursued. Soon, the buyer's side also caught up, the very car holding Jack. The three cars engaged in a breathless chase, like a Formula One race. Jack had to exert a lot of effort to crawl out of the trunk and then lunged into a struggle with the buyer. He seized control of the steering wheel, pried open the car door, and pinned the man down, taking the opportunity to kick him out of the car. Then, he started the car and chased the other two. Sarah tried to pull a dirty trick, but ended up making things difficult for herself. Fortunately, Jack provided backup, staying glued to her tail. After a struggle, Jack's car plunged into a deep ravine. Sarah rushed down in a panic to check. Luckily, he had jumped out of the car in time and was fine. She quickly got in the car to continue the pursuit of Ethan. He had indeed run to the pier. Sarah pointed her gun at her ex-husband, but even then, Ethan refused to give up. He wanted to sell the information so they could flee together and enjoy a dream life. But Sarah wouldn't accept it. Just as Ethan was about to make a move, she fired first, finishing off her ex-husband and eliminating the threat. A few days later, at Jack's best friend's wedding, the two appeared together. Having gone through a series of life and death adventures, they were able to mend their broken relationship. The story ends here. This movie has action scenes that are quite well designed, but in terms of character development, it feels somewhat unsatisfactory. After failing the mission in Italy, the female lead specifically went to New Jersey to kidnap the male lead. But after watching the whole movie, the male lead's role doesn't seem as significant as the female lead's. On the contrary, it seems the female lead had him join just to rekindle an old flame. Even when the plot reached its climax in the second half, the two were still arguing about their romantic relationship. From a logical standpoint, it's a bit hard to understand. However, the chase scenes are still commendable, combining parkour and racing elements to keep the movie from being boring. Thank you for watching. What do you all think of this movie?